Hi, and welcome to Toni Time. Well, I hope everybody's having a wonderful summer, everybody's enjoying themselves, but we have a guest on our show that was on our show last year. He is a clinical psychologist, a dear friend of mine. Welcome to the show, Arthur.
Thank you for having me back.
It's great. I mean, it's been a year.
Yes.
What have you been up to?
Working, playing with grandchildren, staying in shape, loving being back at Biddeford Pool.
Oh, I know.
Dream about it all winter.
Well, of course,
Yeah.
of course. I used to do that when I lived in New York, and I would come up here for a month, and then I would go back, and then the next 11 months, I'd be dreaming about coming back.
Yeah,
So I know
yeah.
what you're talking
I literally
about.
dream about it, especially on snow days.
Oh, God, and we had a winter up here.
I heard.
Oh, my
I heard.
God. We had a winter. And for a city girl, you know, I'm learning to become a Mainer here. I mean, I can go out in a t-shirt now when it's below zero and not be cold.
That truly is a Mainer.
Boy.
You've graduated.
I've graduated. Well, you know what? Even though we know each other, I decided to go back and kind of go over all the books you wrote. You've got like 7, 8 books here.
Mm-hmm.
And my goodness, that's such an accomplishment.
Thank you.
I mean, how do you feel? I mean, each book, The Stress Solution, it's almost like every section of life, every day as things change, you have acknowledged the stress, the empathy. Mm-hmm. You wrote a book on the power of empathy. And you also, transforming anxiety into joy.
Mm-hmm.
How many people out there right now are suffering from anxiety and panic?
I mean, we have some of the highest rates of stress, anxiety, and panic now than we've had in many years. The suicide rates, the highest in 30 years for adolescents.
Yeah.
But guess what? Highest in 30 years for adults.
Really?
So depression is rampant, and the concern about what's happening in our culture is increased greatly. Empathy's decreased, narcissism has increased, trust is decreased. You know, Americans have fewer friends today than they had 20, 30 years ago. People are spending less time with their children. We know that for a fact. So it has an impact. Plus, we're a society that's so emphatic about achievement and appearance, as you know, that we have taught our kids that character is less important than what we achieve, how much money we have, and what we look like. So that produces a lot of anxiety.
Yeah. But when did all this start, Arthur? I mean, what was the turning point where it became so ingrained in everyone?
I think technology has helped us and hurt us. I mean, as you know, writing a book is much easier when we can Google certain facts and reach so much research instantly. But also, it's put this thing in people's hands all the time. I mean, I was telling my wife not long ago, I went to lunch one day in the early spring, and I'm at the counter, and there's a mother, father, and 2 kids. They must have been 10 and 12, all 4 on the phone at the same time. Nobody's talking to each other, and they're doing this.
Yeah.
So, I mean, technology has made the culture much faster. We have little patience with reading. Now they tell you can't even write a blog. You need to write a note, 1 paragraph, because people won't read a page or 2 pages. So we're a very fast-paced society, and we don't know how to calm ourselves. And we're not teaching our young people how to calm themselves. Mm-hmm. So there's anxiety. People aren't listening very well. I have a chapter in the book, as you know, on empathic listening, really knowing how to slow down and listen to another person and how that changes brain chemistry for the better. But people are always interrupting, and they're really talking at each other. They're not really listening, so you don't comprehend or get to know very much about the other person.
There are people who will go and interrupt in the middle of a conversation. Is that because they don't have the patience, or is that because they're not interested in what you're saying?
I think there's a lot of variables there. Sometimes it's ego. I want the microphone. I don't want you to have it.
Yeah.
Secondly, it could be anxiety. I don't have the patience to slow down and listen, because anxious people have difficulty with that.
Yeah.
The other is trying to impress, which goes with the ego, that I want to take over and, I want to tell my story, so they want the group to be listening to me. The truth is, though, when you don't listen well, you produce the stress hormone cortisol, which has many negative effects. It increases anxiety, it increases depression, increases inflammation, increases obsessive thinking. It also enlarges fat cells and makes us crave sugary substances. It increases our desire for addiction, addictive substances. So cortisol has a limited positive effect and many, many negative effects.
Yeah.
When we're moving very fast, we're producing stress on a level that we probably don't even realize what it's doing to us on a cellular level. It's aging us. We know that people who are highly stressed, at the end of the chromosomes, they actually are shortening and aging internally in ways that you can't even see. And we know that kids that grow up in stress-filled homes, it's the same.
Yeah.
These telomeres, the end of chromosomes that shrink as we age, some of these kids, they're biologically 8 years older than they are chronologically.
So this is just a continuous cycle going on.
It's a cycle of rapid, I don't have time for you, you don't have time for me. If I achieve more, look better, gain more, increase the resume, I'll obtain love and respect from other people. And most people don't realize that's what they're looking for. We all want to be loved.
Yeah.
We all want to be respected.
Right.
It's what I call performance addiction. Right. The belief that increasing appearance and achieving more and more will bring you the love you're looking for. And of course, it doesn't happen that way. And happiness doesn't happen that way. People think by attaining certain things and again improving that resume, I'm going to be happy. Happiness is a byproduct of the way we interact. It's a byproduct of giving and goodness and being connected to other human beings. And we change our brain chemistry that way. We produce oxytocin, that near miracle neurotransmitter that makes people feel safe and secure and increases longevity, reduces stress and cortisol. So one neurochemical that is produced by calm interacting and really truly listening, the other, the rapid interrupting, actually produces cortisol, which has many, many negative effects. So we're changing our brain by the way we interact. Rapid, slow, one negative neurochemical, one positive neurochemical. And anyone can be taught to listen empathically.
I remember the days when people used to do that.
Yes.
I do remember those days. Now, you were talking about in your book that people are hardwired from childhood. Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, we look into the mirrors of the people in our early life to find out who we are, because we don't know who we are. So if you're my mother and you're impatient or you're depressed or you're alcoholic, you're feeding back to me certain ways that you see the world and the way you see me. So it's like looking in a mirror, but oftentimes it's like looking in a circus mirror. We get a distorted view of ourselves. So you could change the self-concept of a young child in a weekend by calling them stupid or being impatient or what's wrong with you, or because kids internalize it all. They believe that my mother, my father, my coach, my teachers, they're impatient with me or talking negatively to me because of who I am, not because of who they are. So we write a novel early in life about ourselves. I always say that as adults, we have to rewrite it and make it a nonfiction book. Find out who we truly are. Because the way we have learned early in life is based on conditioning that is not necessarily accurate. So many people tell me they're not attractive, they're not smart, they're not athletic, they can't speak in public, on and on and on, when it's all due to early conditioning. And then they find out later, particularly if they're in therapy, that that's not true. That's really not who you are.
Right.
We need to get feedback from rational people in our lives, people who are reasonable, people who we know will tell us the truth. You know the old saying, good friends tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear? Right. So when you have friends like that, you start to learn who you are. And we learn who we are in close relationships when we're vulnerable, when we expose ourselves, when we let ourselves be known. And most importantly, when we let our other people know, I can accept feedback. I'm not going to be defensive. Okay? I'm not going to get all upset about the trivial things. You can tell me what you think. I want to know. I want to grow. I want to improve.
It's true.
So we have to rewrite that book that we've written early in life and make it more objective. That's what empathy does. Empathy is focused on the truth, perceiving the truth. It's everyday mind reading, assessing ourselves and others accurately. And I think that's probably one of the greatest achievements any human being can attain, is being able to reduce the prejudice about oneself and others. You know, that's why obviously I wrote a chapter on prejudice in that book.
Well, now, when you're hardwired, are you talking about your first chapter in your life? Is that where it comes from your parents? From little on, like you were talking about, oh, you're stupid, you're this, you're that? Or if a parent is more encouraging or more like a cheerleader for the child, is that where it really starts?
It absolutely starts there. We have a little granddaughter, Carmela. She was named after my mother, 4 years old. So if you say I say to Carmela, why do I do these things for you? She'll say, no, because you love me. Because you love me. And I'll say, Carmela, you're beautiful. She'll say, I know. Well, because she gets a lot of validation.
Yeah.
She's full of excitement. She can approach, like on the beach, she'll go up to children and say, can I play? She's not shy, she's not reticent, because she's getting that validation early on. One of my aunts was listening to me. I said, Carmela, I love you. I say that all the time.
Yeah.
You know. And one of my aunts had tears in her eyes. And I said, what? She goes, I never heard my father say that my whole life.
Wow.
Can you imagine going through your whole life and never hearing that?
No.
So her story is, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
This little girl's story is, I'm absolutely good enough. I'm ready to go out in the world and be who I am, because people love me the way I am.
That's a beautiful way of really describing that, where I've seen that happen a lot with kids. I've seen it within my own family, with children, with the encouragement as you give your granddaughter, and the kids who never got encouragement
Yes.
in that way.
Yes.
Now, as the kids are growing up, do you think your granddaughter, as she gets older, and she gets more into school and growing and junior high, do you feel she'll carry that with her?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't mean that she won't have her struggles, because this culture is difficult.
Yeah.
And it's particularly difficult for girls. You know that.
Yeah.
The emphasis in middle school now on weight and appearance, the increase in eating disorders. Boys have an increase in eating disorders. There's a 10% increase in boys with eating disorders. So we're looking at all these magazines. You go into a department store or a grocery store, what all the pictures you see. You know more than most people, the models, you're looking at Vogue and Cosmopolitan. These little kids are looking at that too.
Yeah.
So now, all of a sudden, they're getting very competitive. And I don't look right, or maybe my skin is the wrong color, or my hair is curly and it should be straight, or my eyes are blue and it should be brown, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
And then a couple of people make some negative comments, and you don't come home to that positive environment that overcomes it.
Right.
So if you're a little girl and you're being criticized 6th grade, 5th grade, but you come home and you have parents you can talk to, you're going to listen to me over time more than them.
Yeah.
It's going to hurt you, but I'm going to help you. But what if I'm not interested? What if you come home and I'm drunk? What if you come home and I've had my 4th martini?
Yeah.
Come on, leave me alone now. Will you get her away from me?
Yeah.
Now it only gets reinforced, right? I'm not good enough socially. I'm not good enough at home either. I'm not good enough. Now that little girl or little boy goes to school and they're not paying attention. Why? Because they're daydreaming about how awful they feel. Because they're looking around and they're seeing someone else who seems smarter, seems more athletic, or seems prettier or more handsome. And it starts to build this idea that unless I can get those things, those traits, I'm not going to be able to fulfill myself. And then all of a sudden, something good happens. Maybe she gets a role in a play and people are clapping and you see, achievement does it.
Yeah.
That's what will build self-esteem. And then that becomes addictive. It's great to achieve for the right reasons, because the little girl truly loves singing or being in a play. But what if it's just to lift me up because I feel so bad? Then you have to achieve. Then you become a perfectionist. Then if you're not perfect, you're not good enough. And nobody gets to attain perfection.
No.
Okay?
No.
We are all imperfect. But it's so easy in this culture to believe that's the way I must be if you didn't get that early validation and resonance early in life. So as you said, hardwired. Now I'm
Yeah.
hardwired to think I'm not good enough, but now I hit a home run, or I'm the star in the play, or somebody said I'm pretty or handsome. Now you get addicted to that because it's the only thing you have to lift
And
you
it
up.
makes you feel good.
Sure.
So you want more of that.
You want more.
So that would tend to encourage you to achieve more because you like that feeling.
Right, but there's two kinds of achievement. One is because I love what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And how many people love what they're doing today? 70 to 80% of American workers say they hate what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay? That's a large percentage.
Sure.
So if you're doing something just to get esteem versus doing something because I love doing it and the esteem is a byproduct of doing it, that's a whole different thing. Then you enjoy, it doesn't feel like work.
Right.
It feels like this is what I'm destined to do.
Because I'm having fun.
Right. And I'm getting self-esteem. But what if I don't even like, you know how many physicians, like I have a client who's a surgeon, doesn't
Yeah.
like to do surgery, but his grandfather was a surgeon, his father was a surgeon, and he knew they were giving him butter knives when he was 4 years old at the table. He had to be a surgeon. He's a wonderful artist. He wants to be an artist. It'd be very hard for him to leave this.
Yeah.
Because when you meet somebody new and you say, what do you do? I'm a surgeon. You're a surgeon?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, let me tell you about my foot. And on and on and on. And he's, because of his struggle with his self-esteem, and you would think an MD wouldn't have that, right?
Right.
MDs, physicians, when they're in, before medical school, have the same rate of depression and suicide as the general population. After medical school, after they've been practicing for 5 years, there's a 40% increase in suicide versus the general population.
Wow.
And depression is higher than the general population and much higher for female physicians still today.
Wow.
So people think it's only the poor or the blue-collar people that struggle. Lawyers have higher rates of addiction and suicide and depression and stress than the general population. And what are we supposed to be? Doctors and lawyers, right?
An Indian
So-
chief.
An Indian chief, right. So if you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you don't like doing it. My client doesn't like doing surgery,
Yeah.
but he doesn't know what else to turn to.
Right. Which means his life, he really has not achieved what he really wants to do and probably will not until he retires, maybe.
I have a client who's a physician who's retired, 76 years old. He still has the dream that he didn't pass the medical boards.
Oh my God.
He said, I feel like a fraud. I have nothing to give people now. And here's a person who's had a wonderful, successful career,
Yeah.
helped many, many people, but unless he's achieving, unless he had that MD, the doctor role, now he feels like I have nothing to give. And I often say to him, what about who you are?
Yeah.
Isn't that? Well, but I'm always sending people on trips and send my kids to private school, and I'm always buying the dinners for everyone, and you know, that's my esteem. And now I don't have that as much as I did before. And, I mean, he probably has more money than you and I will ever have. But that inner difficulty has never been resolved. I always say you can't solve an internal problem through an external solution.
Right.
So because you're a doctor, an actress, a celebrity, an athlete, it doesn't mean that you have solid self-esteem.
Right.
That's
No,
why-
that's very true.
But the average person assumes that that's true. Why do lottery winners have higher rates of suicide and depression? They're multimillionaires,
Yeah. Yeah.
but they get depressed because it didn't change the inside.
Does that mean they didn't work on the inside? They just went with a path?
Yes. They went with the early conditioning.
Okay.
You know, they went with the early. If I went with my early conditioning, I wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
You know, I was the kid, I told you our last interview, senior in high school, they told me don't apply to college. Kids like you don't go to college.
Yeah.
You know, so I was misled. So I walked around the ball field that day
Yeah.
with tears in my eyes. What am I going to do? I'm not smart enough to go to college. My grades aren't so great. I'm not academically oriented. What am I going to do? Didn't seem like there was anything to do.
And what changed that?
I found this place called Bridgeton Academy in Maine, where I was interviewed by a man named William Goldsmith, and I came up with my dad. You could do a post year of high school. It was for like athletes who didn't study very much.
Yeah.
And my father was answering all the questions, and Mr. Goldsmith said, Mr. Ciaramiicoli, you're going to have to leave. I want to talk to your son. I said, oh. And Mr. Goldsmith leaned forward and he said, Arthur, do you want to come here? I said, Mr. Goldsmith, my father's a great guy. I shouldn't be here. I don't read, I don't study, I'm not a good student. It wouldn't work out. I know my dad thinks this is a good idea, but you know, he said, so you don't read? I said, no. You don't read anything? I said, no. He said, I heard you're a football player. Right. Do you read the sports page? I said, yeah. He said, well, how many sports pages do you read? I said, I read the Boston Globe, the Boston Herald. You know, and he said, so what was the score of last week's championship game? And I told him the score. And he goes, what was the average yard per carry of Jimmy Brown? And I told him that. And he said, what was this and that? He said, you've just answered every single number. You know every numeral of every game, and you told me you don't read. And he held my hand. He goes, I guess they didn't know what to teach you or how to teach you. Wow. He said, if you come here, you'll be okay.
Wow.
And in The Power of Empathy, my first book, I dedicated a chapter to him, because that man in that moment, from all that negative hardwiring, there was a change. When my parents came up for the parents' weekend, they came up and they were talking to different teachers. He pulled them aside. He said, your son is the hardest worker here. I was reading under a flashlight at night because he empowered me. He believed in me.
Yeah.
And it started to turn the corner. One man, one interview, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Why would this guy who's a principal believe in me? It made me wonder.
Sure.
Started a process.
Wow. And if it wasn't for him, who knows?
Who knows? Probably would have went in the Army.
Yeah.
I had 5 or 6 friends in high school. We all grew up in a blue-collar town. I think they were all naturally more intelligent than me. One of them died early, alcoholism, cocaine addiction, on, because they didn't have that.
Right.
My dad knew enough to try to push me to somebody who might be educated enough to help and tease out potential. That's what I do as a psychologist. I tease out potential. People come into me and they say, so you're going to focus on what's wrong with me. I say, no. I don't focus on what's wrong with people. I try to tease out what's been right with you all along that you never discovered. That's my objective.
Let me stop you there for a minute. Now, would you think that as you pull out what is positive and good about them, do you think that possibly they're afraid of that because it's more responsibility? And that's why they shoved it in and now you're pulling it out?
I think generally people don't know it's there.
Okay.
They don't know their natural abilities. They don't know what's positive about them. They don't know the goodness that's in their heart because they haven't had the right validation and the amount of empathy. Empathy is truly understanding the other person, not me, but understanding you, your unique presence, and pulling out that unique potential. I don't think they've had that opportunity. So they take to it. So many people come in, like I have groups that have been, group therapy that's been going on for many years, and people come in and say, oh, he'd never talk, she'd never talk. People talk because people are listening to them, and over time they open up. And they suddenly, in a group where we only know our first names, right, where nobody knows their resume, what do you get acclaim for? You can't talk about how much money you have. You can't talk about your stock portfolio. You only get respect for how you interact in the room. And then people start to take to that because they see, wow, she's a really good listener. Why does everybody like her? Why aren't they paying attention to me?
Yeah.
Because my ego's so big, I haven't asked anybody else in here a question.
Right.
But this woman over here is always interested in everyone else. And you start to see that that brings something. And a lot of high achievers, because I work with a lot of high achievers, they don't see that that actually comes about through interacting, not by trying to impress people, by what you have. You know, I gave a talk in Idaho a few months ago to 100 CEOs. And I said at the end of the talk, it was on the book, Stress. I said at the end of the talk, I said, look, you're all here, I'm sure, wealthier than I am.
Yeah.
You're all very successful. You all own many companies. But here's the bottom line. If you fail at love, you fail at life.
Wow.
One of the fellas, 74 years old, come up and talk to me, and he said, you just ruined my day, you know. I said, what? He said, I'm on my 3rd wife. I don't know how to relate in the way you've been talking about. I don't know how to maintain intimacy. I'm so wealthy. My 3 adult children don't come to see me more than once a year. I don't know my grandchildren. And he had tears in his eyes. He says, you're right, but we don't ever talk about this in the corporate world.
No, you don't.
I thought taking them to Australia for a vacation or taking them to Europe or buying them cars when they were 16. They were the only one who had sport cars when they were 16, private schools. I thought that would make them love me. But it didn't.
No.
He said, because of exactly what you said, I never spent time with them. I don't really think I even know them.
Wow.
Pretty powerful
Yeah.
for somebody who has all of that.
Yeah.
But at the end of life, you have all of that.
Right.
But you know that you don't have that kind of closeness.
So what did you tell him?
I said, you can grow at your age. This can happen.
Yeah.
We could talk more. You could talk to other people. Today, people Skype or they do,
Yeah.
FaceTime on their phones. There's always a way of contacting someone who can help you learn how to bring that out.
Right. But I think the fact that you were there and you said that as a closing note had a lot of power to it. And I'm sure for a lot of men, women in that audience.
Yes, and you know what hooks in the high achievers? The brain part. When you say the way you live is destroying your brain and it's aging you because they want to look good and they want to live long.
Yeah.
And they say, what do you mean? I say, high stress people produce cortisol. We talked about cortisol earlier. Do you know what that does to you on a cellular level?
Yeah.
And they say, oh, you mean I'm changing my brain right now? I said, you just interrupted me 3 times. Yes, you're changing your brain right now.
It's a habit for them.
Yes, because they're used to being walking in the building, and here I am. I'm the owner. I'm the CEO. I'm the CFO. And guess what happens when you go home and you got little kids? They don't care if
They
you're
don't
the
care.
CEO. They're nipping at your feet. They don't want you to
Right.
read the newspaper. You know, they don't want you on your phone all night long. I interviewed a family not long this summer. Wonderful group of people, but one's a doctor and one's a CEO. He owns 7 businesses, the other's a physician, okay? They've got 3 little boys who are the most adorable little kids. And I wanted to talk to the older one who's 10. I said, I want your parents to leave, I want to talk to you. I said, how is it in your family? Lousy. How come? Everybody wants to do something all the time. Why can't we just do nothing? They have soccer. They have tennis. They study the piano and the flute. They go to private school. They have a math tutor. They have Russian math on and Saturdays and Sundays. Saturday morning and Sunday morning, they're tutored.
Oh my goodness. There's no childhood.
There's no childhood. And the parents are already talking about Harvard and Yale. And let me tell you, and I told them, by the time these kids are adolescents, guaranteed one is going to rebel.
Yeah.
They're not going to want to go anywhere.
No. No.
Because they want to be happy.
They just want to sit and be. And it sounds like to me, they want to be with the family, but they don't want to be running all over.
Yes, and they don't want somebody who's on the phone all the time.
Yeah.
He said, my dad is on his phone all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll tell you, he said, my dad's on his phone, and he says, go get me tea. And I said to my dad last week, you get your own tea, put your phone down. And my dad got mad at me,
Yeah. Because I'm sure the father thought what he's doing is more important, number one.
He's the CEO at home.
Yeah.
You're the secretary. Go
Yeah.
get me my tea.
Right. Right. Wow. We were talking about before the show the standardized patient program at UNE and Brighton Hospital in Portland, where you work with the interns. But, we are teaching, and I've been doing this now for 4 years, and I love it, and I feel like I'm making a difference. But I am seeing where we have to teach compassion. Kids do not know how to give bad news. They need to be trained.
Yes.
Now, when you and I were growing up, we gave compassion. That was part of our growing up. If we saw somebody in trouble, we would go and help. Now, I'm seeing where they're going, oh, I wonder if I should help. The word wonder if I should help, I don't think would come into your mind or my mind.
Yeah.
You would just go and help.
Yes.
I had one I won't mention names. I had one student who the whole case was he was giving me an IV. He put it in the arm wrong and gave me a stroke. So now the intern has to come in, confront me, and now he's ruined my life. And as he came in, I'm laying there on the table. I'm not moving my left side. He comes in, he comes on my left side, number one. And I said, what did you do to me? I have 3 children. I'm a single mom. I work. What did you do to me? He's against the wall now. He says, I made a mistake. I said, but it's my life. Mm-hmm. What if this was your mother? I mean, this is all pretend role play. And he was getting so agitated. I said, I can't even see you on my left side. So he comes over to my right. Now he's against the wall like this. I said, but you took an oath not to do no harm. He said, I didn't take an oath not to make a mistake. Whoa. And as the conversation went on, he finally said to me with his arms up against the wall, what do you want from me? I said, I want compassion. Now, after the whole thing was over, he was allowed to go and watch the tape, the videotape, comes back in. I sit down with him to give him constructive feedback. I said, so how do you think you did? I think I did pretty good. I said, really? You thought you did really good? The doctor came down, the head doctor comes into the room, and he did all the right things, the politically correct things. And apparently after this was over, and I saw that doctor a week later, he says, you don't know what happened after you left. He was down at the end of the hall sobbing in a ball. Now I see more of that. Mm. And everything we're talking about now, you know, does he really want to be a doctor? Or is it like your friend who everyone in his family was a surgeon and now he thinks he should be doing this?
Yeah.
There's so much of that, Arthur.
It's such a poignant example because just being empathic, if he had gone over to this side of you and said, you know, I don't even know how to say this to you because I feel so badly. I made a mistake.
Yeah.
It's breaking my heart to tell you this because I shouldn't have done that. I made a mistake. I tried my best, and I hope in some ways maybe you could forgive me. I don't even know if that's possible. I feel terrible. Right. I feel awful that this happened to you.
Yeah. That would have made...
close.
Yeah. That would have made a world of difference.
I gave a talk in Hilton Head to a group of physicians a few years ago, and one of the physicians stood up. He was an older man. He goes, you know, you're talking about empathy. You're talking about empathy. We don't have time for empathy. He said, you know, we have 5 minutes. We have 10 minutes. We work in these groups. We're supposed to see so many patients a day. You don't know what it's like. I said, it only takes seconds to be empathic.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I gave him an example of there was a physician. Actually, it was in the Boston Globe. He was an older doctor, and one of his friends came in, and he was a primary care physician, and the friend said, you know, I came in to tell you Ruth died, his wife. And the doctor he was looking at his watch for this old friend, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't talk to you right now, but you know, you see all the people in the waiting room, and his friend left angrily. And he wrote the story, and he said, what I should have done in retrospect is looked at him because it bothered him so much later and said, you know what, I don't have time to talk with you. I want to talk with you. How about dinner tonight? I have all these patients, but I want to talk to you. You know, what time, can I come over? Can I take you out?
Yeah.
Okay, that took 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Now here's an older physician who realized that he made a mistake.
Yeah.
And he reflected on it and he wrote about it. I mean, it actually became an article.
Good for him.
So the doctor who stood up in that talk that I gave, who said, we don't have time. No, you do have time.
You do have time.
You're walking through the hall and someone says, can I talk to you?
Yeah.
Toni, can I talk? I'm busy, I've got a meeting. I can't talk to you right now, I'm late for a meeting. Can you leave a message on my phone, I'll get back to you.
Yeah.
Takes the same amount of time.
Right. Right.
But when you think you don't have time, you don't have time.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I mean, making the other person feel as if they're unimportant. You might be friends for a long time or colleagues for a long time. But you're right. It's all in how you present it, you deliver it. It's the eye contact. It's getting close. It's even the touch.
Yes.
That means more than what you were talking about.
Yeah.
There's so much of that. So, I've been dying to ask you this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
The Me Too movement,
Yeah.
what do you think?
I think it's a great thing.
Okay.
I think it's long overdue. Mm-hmm. I was asked in an interview once, what is the most amazing thing that has occurred to you in your 40-year career? Mm-hmm. And I said, the most amazing thing to me, still today, is what women will tolerate. Mm-hmm. It's still amazing to me, in 2018, what women will tolerate.
Right.
It's unbelievable to me. Mm-hmm. Still, of all the stories I've heard, you know, I've worked in a prison, college, and so forth, it's still amazing to me. Still amazing to me. Did an interview, we may have told you about this once. I still think of this example. Man comes in, bald, stomach out to here, comes in with a beautiful wife, lovely person, I mean, statuesque, and he says, in the middle, he goes, can't you see she's, you know, I said, what? He goes, little stomach, you know, honey, you're gaining a little weight. And I looked at him and I said, when you get up in the morning and you look in the mirror, yeah, and you're shaving, I said, do you see Brad Pitt? You know, and she's taking it, and I'm like, say something to him. Well, you know, I know, I'm going to join a gym, Harry, you know, and still today, these are two college-educated people, bright people. She's a bright woman, but I see that consistently. Yeah. Has it changed somewhat? Yes, but not as much as people think. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Look at all these people that were abusing women all these years.
Oh, yeah.
And nobody said anything.
Okay, so I'm going to play a little devil's advocate with you. You know my background.
Yeah.
During that time, 30 years ago, where drugs, sex, rock and roll was the whole thing. And everybody, I mean, I can't say nobody hurt anybody, but it was a little more out there and funny, and people had humor. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now we come all these years forward where women, okay, depending on their line of work, I have to be very careful how I word this, depending on their line of work, if they're an actress, if they're in the industry, and they sleep with someone mm-hmm. for a job, that's been the name of the game since 1934. Mm-hmm. All right? No one forces a woman to do that unless they want to move ahead in their career. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I look at it from the days where I come from and say, hey, the casting couch has been going on forever. Now, all of a sudden, it's at the forefront. Mm-hmm. I have a problem with it.
But the people that have come forward, the women that have come forward,
okay.
are not saying it was voluntary. They're
right.
saying that they were approached, they were groped, and they didn't want to be groped.
Okay.
And they said, leave me alone.
Okay.
Don't do that. That's different than I'm the director and you decide that you want to sleep with me mm-hmm. to get that job.
Right.
Another variable in that.
Okay.
What if you're 17 or 16?
Yeah.
And I'm 48.
Yeah.
You're so vulnerable, you don't know what's going on, and you have low self-esteem. Mm-hmm. And I give you a little cocaine one night.
Right.
Take a sniff of this. This will be good.
Yeah.
And then I get you in bed. Is
right.
that okay because you didn't complain?
Right. Okay. That's a good point.
That's how prostitution starts.
Oh, yeah,
Right?
exactly.
Same way. Some guy comes along and gives somebody, a kid, a street kid, if she doesn't have much, and he gives her a coat or buys her dinner, and then, you know. So there's a manipulation and a vulnerability.
Okay.
If you're a mature woman with solid self-esteem and you decide to make that decision for your own gain,
Right.
that's different.
Right.
I don't think that's what these women are talking about.
Okay.
Walking into a hotel room when you're supposed to be interviewing a celebrity and he's there nude, or he takes off his bathrobe and he has nothing on. She didn't ask for that.
No. But wouldn't you think, again, I'm playing devil's advocate, only my point of view, if she is invited to his hotel room, I would think, because people talk, this is not the first time he's done this man, we're not mentioning names, you would know when you knock on that door what you're in for, because you've heard the rumor, but you still go.
Okay, let's say you still go, okay? And you in your mind are thinking, maybe I'll sleep with him. But what if he's aggressive and hurtful?
True.
You didn't ask for that.
Right.
And that's where the equation gets confusing, because sometimes people think, well, she went in the room, but she didn't go in the room to be slapped.
Right.
She didn't go in the room to be hit.
Yeah.
She went in the room thinking something sexual may occur.
Yeah.
But there's a difference between sexuality and aggressive and sadism and brutality and molestation.
Right.
Those are all different things.
Right. Good point. I've been dying to ask you your thoughts on this.
Remember the Jodie Foster movie that was the true story?
Yes.
Okay, and they raped her in the pool room because
Yeah.
they said, "Oh, look at the way she was dressed."
Yeah.
And she was sexual, and she did have sex with people. That didn't mean she could be raped, though.
Right. Exactly.
That's a different thing.
Yeah. Good. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Arthur.
You're welcome.
I really appreciate that. I mean, I respect your opinion, and I know that you would explain it in such a way in different levels, and that's what I wanted to hear from you. I really did.
I think one of the keys is the manipulation piece, because we know, a young woman may think it means this, but then the person may not know what they're getting into. Now they're in it, but you open the door.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's okay, because you open the door.
Okay.
No, it's not okay.
Yeah. I understand.
And what I'm talking about, even before you ask the Me Too question, is just the fact that it's the acceptance of the lack of equality.
Okay.
That still is existent in our culture today.
True.
We see that in our celebrities, in our politicians. It's not that important. We'll let it go. We shouldn't let it go. It's a terrible, terrible model for young people and all people. People all over the world look to us. We're supposed to be the free country, the reign of the free. That's what we stand for. When they see people being treated this way, they can't believe it happens here. They don't think it happens here. I have clients from other countries who come and work in the corporate world, especially women. They didn't think they couldn't believe that this kind of behavior exists. They didn't know that. They thought it would be different here from the countries they came from, especially third world countries, where it's so prevalent.
Oh, sure. Sure. Wow. No, it's a whole different, as I sit and I watch all the cases, and I agree with you thoroughly. If you knock on that door, you don't want to be abused. You might know what you're walking into, but you don't want to be abused.
I don't think anybody wants to be abused.
No. But I needed to hear your take on this, because there's so much of that going on right now, and so much press about it. But then, where I have a problem, Kevin Spacey, Dustin Hoffman, 30 years ago, somebody comes forward now. They've just ruined their career.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
I don't know enough about the particulars in either of those cases to say, so I don't really know. It would depend on the circumstances, the severity of the actions. how devastated it was to the person. If it was just something mild and they just want some press themselves,
Right.
of course that's a whole different issue. But I don't know enough about either of those cases.
Okay, fair enough. We're running out of time. Do you believe this? It goes so fast with
Yes.
you. So fast. So I just want to remind people, Steve, the stress solution. I'm going to let him come in close on this. Now, all of your books, people, the audience, can buy these on Amazon, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. And I did go on Amazon and look, and I see all your books listed. Oh, I have one more question before we go. I want your point of view on it again. I've been doing a radio show every week.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's in LA. iHeartRadio patches me in with a friend of mine in California who's a medium and channels people who crossed over.
Mm-hmm.
So April, my friend, becomes Veronica.
Uh-huh.
Okay, people write in for the show. The show's been on for a while now, and they have all kinds of questions. And a few doctors have written in and whatever. And so I host the show. It's really her show. And we've been talking about linear space and talking about life after death. Mm-hmm. What's your theory on it?
What's my theory on it? I believe that there's something beyond us.
Okay.
I'm absolutely sure of that. I think life is a mystery. There's so much that we can't know.
Yeah.
I think some people are too concerned with certainty. I think it's fun to know that life is a mystery. So what do I think? I don't know. I don't know. There's so much I don't know. There's so much we all don't know. The Dalai Lama was once asked, how can you prove that we can be reincarnated? He burst out laughing and he said, how can you prove we can't?
True, true.
And he went like this, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You know, and is that okay? Why do we have to know? I don't know. We can't know. There's so much we learn all the time, even about our own potential. It keeps growing and growing. So, and some of the most eminent scientists in the world believe that there's a God, that there's something beyond us. And I do too.
Yeah.
But can I say exactly for sure with 100% surety? No.
Yeah.
But I believe life is a mystery. And there's much that we don't understand, and that's okay. We don't have to understand everything.
Okay. You know, I always have for you one more question. And that was another one because I've been doing this show now for about 4 months, and I've been having fun with it. And the questions that people ask and they write in and stuff. And I was doing a show last Thursday because I do it every Thursday. And I'm making a note. Ask Arthur what he thinks of life after death. I just so enjoy interviewing you.
Well, thank you very much.
I
enjoy the interaction very much as well. It's easy with you.
Oh, thank you. I love to hear your thoughts. I mean, it's been a year. Coming together like this, I know the audience they really enjoy it. And after our last show, I was in Portland at Macy's. And this woman came out from behind the clothes, and she saw our show. And she said, "Hi, I'm Brenda, and I saw your show with Arthur." And she said, "Oh my God, I learned so much from it." And I mean, this is God's truth. And she says, "Oh, please keep doing your shows." I said, "Well, he'll be back this summer." So for you, Brenda, told you he's back. So again, Arthur, I want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
And we do have fun, and we do get in, and I can ask you anything, which I love. And we'll see you around the pool, and we'll get you back to do another show and catch up.
I'd love to do another one.
We will.
Okay.
We will. We're a good team. So I want to thank everybody for watching the show today, and have a good week, a good weekend, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.